Okay, welcome back to the Clark and Miller podcast. It's good to have you here once again. So, today we're going to talk about self-study and what you can do to improve your English by yourself at home with nothing else around you. So, yeah, basically revision. Now, revision can be a real pain in the neck for a lot of learners. And we'll look at why, and we'll look at how to overcome those issues that you might have that you don't want to study, because it happens to all of us. Sometimes we don't want to study. First, before we get into it, I just want to say go and check us out at clarkandmiller.com. There's more than just the podcast. We've got some books, most of which are free. You can download for free. We've got a blog with basically hundreds of English lessons that you can read. And we've also got some of the best teachers on the internet. So if you want actual face-to-face on Skype, if that counts as face-to-face. If you want face-to-face lessons, then head on down there, clarkandmiller.com. Also, if you want, send me an email, gabriel@clarkandmiller.com, if you have any questions or comments about this podcast. But let's just get going, because I'm really eager to talk about this. Something that I think can benefit everybody, including teachers. So, here we go. Okay, so imagine having a meal routine. You have toast and hummus for breakfast every day, and spaghetti for lunch every day, and soup and mashed potato for dinner every day. Now, why would you do that? It wouldn't be nice, right? It'd be a very unpleasant lifestyle if you had the same thing every day. I know a lot of people do have the same thing every day, but I'm sure if they had the choice, they wouldn't. As humans, we seek diversity. We want something different. If we have the same thing all the time, it gets boring. So, if we want to eat, we want a menu, whether it's just going online and checking out what's available online, or maybe we even have a little list of things that we like to cook. Either way, we kind of consult a menu and we decide what we feel like eating. And it should be the same with studying. Why would you have a study routine and do the same thing, or decide what to do on Wednesday while you're still on Monday? Why would you have this sort of regimented routine? This can be very demotivating, because the important thing when you're studying is to do something regularly. And if you decide on Monday what you're going to do on Wednesday, and then Wednesday comes along and you don't want to do it anymore, I don't feel like doing that, you'll probably just do nothing. And you'll probably just go, okay, I'm not doing English today. I don't want to do that. It's very easy. It happens to all of us. It happens to me all the time. Studying is the same as eating. Why would you have a meal routine? Why would you have a study routine? You don't know what you're going to feel like on Wednesday. You don't know what you're going to feel like eating, and you don't know what you're going to feel like studying. Sometimes you might have that thing, I really need to study, but you just don't want to. I'll do it later. What can I do next? I'll do something else. Then maybe I'll study, but you never do. So the best thing is not to have a study plan, but have a study menu. You have a list of activities. You can just decide what to do, what you feel like on that day. Don't decide you're going to do A on Wednesday and B on Friday. Wait till Wednesday, look at your choices, and do what you fancy doing. Fancy means feel like, by the way, just in case you didn't know that. Bit of a British word, that one. So today, it's a quick podcast, but I think it can be quite useful and a good way to get started with your study menu. Let's start putting things on the menu. I've got a bunch of stuff that is quite varied and covers two or three skills. So you can decide what to do and what you feel like doing. But you also probably have some things you like doing too that we're not going to talk about today. So also put it on your menu. It's your menu. You decide what's on it. The important thing is that you're doing something, and you're doing something you're enjoying. And you increase the chances of that the longer your menu is. Make a massive menu. Don't go for one of those New York City posh restaurants where there's 2 things on the whole menu. Go for one of those Bulgarian style traditional restaurants where you basically need to read the same length as a Charles Dickens book to get to the end of the menu. I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant in Bulgaria, but it's like that. Massive menus, massive they are. So yeah, it's like exercise. Do something regularly. It doesn't matter what. If you do something, it's always better than not doing something. So yeah, let's get started. The self-study menu. The first item on the self-study menu today is the subtitle sandwich. Now, a lot of my students and just English learners in general, it's a classic question that teachers get all the time. Should I watch things with subtitles? Should I watch things without subtitles? What's the best advice? And this kind of is a thing with teachers. We all get a bit sort of everyone has different opinions, and you also hold several opinions because it's always good to read English. So if you're watching something with English subtitles, that's helping maybe, and maybe you should just listen. But then it's too difficult. I often had this problem too as an advice giver. When people asked me this, I was never entirely sure what the best answer was. But I read a book. I should name drop the book. Can I find it? Here it is. It's deep in the bottom of my whatever this is, drawer, cabinet, desk thing. I'll tell you the story behind this book first. I was at a teaching conference in Burgas in Bulgaria, and there was a raffle. A raffle is when you get a little card with a number on, and if they call your number, you win something. And I won a book on IELTS, which was nice, but I don't often teach IELTS, so it wasn't entirely useful for me. Another person at the conference won this other book called The Non-Native Teacher by Peter, I think it's Peter, but it might be Peter. The Non-Native Teacher by Peter Medgyes, a Hungarian writer who's quite well known. And I really wanted it. I really, really wanted it. So I went up to the lady who'd won. The lady? Are we in the 19th century? I went up to the woman who won the non-native teacher and offered to swap, and she was happy to swap. So now I have a copy of the non-native teacher, and she has the IELTS book, which I'm sure she's putting to good use. So this book was good because this answered the subtitle question. And in this book, he doesn't call it the subtitle sandwich, but Peter Medgyes recommends a way of dealing with subtitles and that can really benefit your listening skills. Right, so it's called the subtitle sandwich because basically it's a process of 3 steps and the subtitles in the middle. If you have an avocado sandwich, the avocado's in the middle. That's why it's called an avocado sandwich. Well, this is a subtitle sandwich, and it's really simple. So the key is you choose something short. You don't watch a whole film. Don't watch a whole TV series. That's what's called extensive listening, and we can talk about that another time. This is intensive listening. So you're going to choose a 3-minute section from it doesn't matter, a film, a TV show, anything that's got subtitles in your language. All right, so you've got your 3-minute bit. It could even be shorter, 1 or 2 minutes. It depends how confident you're feeling. First, watch it without subtitles. That's step 1. Step 1, watch it without subtitles. You will understand, pardon my French, you'll understand bugger all. You'll probably understand, I don't know how good your listening skills are, but listening is probably the toughest one. You will feel a bit bad, and it'll be like, oh, I didn't really understand anything. How can I possibly ever understand this language? I can write it a bit, I can read it, I can speak it a bit, but oh my God, listening is impossible. So yeah, the first step, quite a sort of disappointing step. We've all been there. We all know how that feels like. So hold on, because then the sandwich bit kicks in. Second step, watch the same 2-3 minute clip with subtitles in your own language. So the second time you're watching the same thing, and you're going from understanding almost nothing to suddenly understanding everything. Okay, so that's good, but we're not done, because it's not subtitle on bread, it's a subtitle sandwich. So we need to do the third stage, and this is the key stage. Watch it again without the subtitles, like you did the first time. But unlike the first time, you will understand, you'll know what's happening, and you will be able to relate what people are saying to the meaning. And this is really key, because, that's what listening is, right? You're relating to the sounds, and you're connecting them to meaning, and you'll be able to do that. And you're not reading the subtitles. You already know what's happening. So you can just listen, and hopefully you'll be like, okay, he was saying cat. Okay, now I get it. Or, he's saying that. And you'll be quite intensely listening, and you'll be looking and listening out for certain information, and that's when the magic happens. You'll be relating the meaning and the sound at the same time without reading. To me, this is the best answer to should I have subtitles or not. The subtitle sandwich. Okay, that was item number 1. Great. Item number 2. Okay, this is given as advice this is very popular advice. Teachers recommend it all the time, and I'm going to recommend it too, because it's good. It gets you into the sound of the language in a very abstract way. What you do, this is it's pretty simple. You, again, choose 2 or 3 minutes. This is an intensive listening exercise, not an intensive one. But this one isn't about meaning and about sound. This one is about getting a feel for the sound patterns and the rhythm patterns of the language. Imagine, before I describe this, I just want you to imagine watching television in what's a country where very few people know the language? I don't know, Tajikistan. I'm trusting most people will not understand Tajiki television. So if you wanted to sort of imitate the television, you might just sort of, it's almost like making fun of the sound. You might start going, I don't know, I don't want to sound derogative, but this can be very useful for getting a feel for the rhythm patterns and the sound and the sound patterns and the intonation patterns of a language. So put some television on in English, or a 2 or 3 minute clip, whatever it is, and just start copying the people and have fun with it. Make it exaggerated. Don't try to understand what they're saying. Switch that part of your brain off and just start going, I don't know, whatever ridiculous sounds come out of the clip or of the TV, and just make it sound ridiculous. Have fun with it. This is called shadow reading. Some people call it active listening as well. I don't quite like that term, because it's not very active. You're meant to be switching things off. You're meant to be playful. You're meant to be like a kid, like a baby, just mimicking. That's a nice word, isn't it? Mimicking the sounds of the language. Okay, and number 3, self-study menu item number 3. Okay, this is actually not my idea. This comes completely from one of my students, Daniel. who's Italian, lives in Germany, speaks French and Spanish, has lived in Barcelona and all sorts of places. He speaks quite good Russian. So he's what we could call like a rather successful language learner. And he's sort of in the process of consolidating all his language self-study techniques and what's really working. He's actually kind of working on this as a project, and he came up with a fantastic idea. Yeah, what you do, it's just again a few steps. The first step is go to Google Images, and search for Tintin page, Tin page. Now, Tintin is a comic book. It's quite old-fashioned. It's quite old, but you can find random pages from the books on Google, and just find a page from a Tintin book, and you can read it if you want for fun. We'll come back to Tintin later. I found Tintin an incredibly good language learning tool, but for this exercise, look at the page and describe what's going on. First of all, describe what's going on in terms of movement. Is it going forward or backwards? Is he holding something? Is he pushing something? But try to expand your vocabulary here. This is where you'll want to sort of go online and find words with similar meanings. Instead of hold, we have words like grasp or clutch. See if you can make the descriptions of the movements as colorful as possible. So this is very much like research, vocabulary research, sort of self-study. Do this with the movements on the Tintin page, but then also go through it again and think about the feelings. Like, what's he feeling? What's he thinking? That sort of thing. What's going on internally in the characters? And once again, just go through it and find names for every object you can see in every single frame of that page. You will be amazed how much you can get out of one page of Tintin. Just focus on the movements first, then focus on the feelings, then focus on the objects. And that way you can really expand your vocabulary, but you'll also be able to practice describing things. Describing things is... I've met English learners who can debate philosophy and politics really, really well and beautifully, but they can't really describe like how to change a light bulb or how to fix something without really struggling, because it's simple everyday like descriptions that can be most challenging sometimes. So this is a great way of dealing with that. Okay, and the last two. So we're on to what are we on to? We're on to self-study menu item number 4. Extensive reading. The last two items are going to be about reading. So very quickly, a note on extensive reading and intensive reading, which is the last item on this list. Reading can be used in two sort of general ways in English. You can use it for fun, and the more you do it, the better you get at reading, and the more you enjoy it, the more you do it. So extensive reading is like stress-free reading, anxiety-free reading, easy reading, I suppose. Reading stuff that's easy or interesting or basically stuff that you want to read. This is not a sort of study feeling. This is just doing something fun. And how do we do that? How do we choose? What makes a good extensive reading? Well, I've got a few ideas on this. Why do we give up reading? I suppose that's the best question. Why do we start reading something and then we just give up on it? Well, sometimes what we're reading is just too difficult. This is probably the most common thing. So divide your reading into extensive and intensive. The extensive is for fun. The intensive is for study. Read for fun. So if something's too difficult, just go and find something easier. There is nothing wrong with reading easy stuff, because you just experience the enjoyment of reading in a foreign language. I guess the best way of finding easy stuff is if you look up graded reader online. That's going to give you books that are designed for different levels of English. So some books are designed for elementary and starter, some for pre-intermediate, some for intermediate. Even if like intermediate is too difficult for you, just lower the stress level, read a pre-intermediate book, even read an elementary book. It's fine. The idea is that you enjoy it. Enjoy the stories, enjoy the characters, enjoy the experience of reading in English. Find a graded reader, go below your level, and just read it. It'll be fun. For those who are sort of higher level and graded readers feel a little bit sort of, I don't know, a little bit wooden, I can recommend a few books. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It's called, I'll read that again, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It's a very easy book to read. It's very popularly recommended by teachers for students. And it's fun. It's a very good book. Also, there are two authors who are a little old-fashioned, so I'm a little hesitant, but they are so good that I'm going to mention them. George Orwell from UK and Ernest Hemingway from the US. Both of them are very famous for writing easy-to-follow, simple, clean, slick writing. Orwell's incredibly famous. He wrote Animal Farm in 1984. But yeah, both of them are pretty good too. Also, another reason that you might not be finishing your books are because it's not interesting. So make sure you find something interesting. Dan Brown is intellectually questionable, I will say, but his books are quite addictive and they're quite fun. And yeah, if you can handle a Dan Brown book, I strongly recommend going for one of them. They're called page turners, meaning you can't put the book down. You have to keep reading. Harry Potter is also a bit like that. You just keep going and going and going. Very addictive reading. But whatever you're into, magazines or blogs or anything. I mean, if you're into video games, go and check out a video games blog. If you're into gardening, get a gardening magazine. If you're into giraffe tennis, like subscribe to a giraffe tennis newspaper or whatever happens with that. Find something you're interested in. Two more tips about this. If you don't like reading, if you're just one of those people who just doesn't like reading generally, you know, even in your own language, and that's fine. There are plenty of people like that, and that's totally respectable. Comic books are great fun because there's not too much reading in them. Most of it's dialogue, it's speaking and conversational because, you know, it's a comic, and you get a lot of visual clues as to what things mean. So it makes it quite easy to read too. When I was learning Turkish, I think my fastest and biggest development happened when I was reading a lot of Tintin. Again, Tintin comes up. But whatever comics you like, Tintin and Asterix are great fun. I enjoyed those. Maybe you're into manga, maybe you're into graphic novels, something like that. If you're not a big reader, you probably still like comic books. Finally, you might have a short attention span. What was that? That was my little joke there. Short what? Was it a joke? I don't know. What was the question? Sorry, I couldn't resist that. I really couldn't. Okay, you might have a short attention span. Or, more commonly, you just don't have time to read stuff. You can't finish books because you barely have time to start one. You just need a few minutes. Well, this is when you need what I call word candy. Stuff that's just fun to read. And they're short. You know, you can be done with it in a minute, even a minute, super short stuff. Online is good at this because, you know, as our online attention span gets shorter and shorter, we get articles that are designed to keep people's attention, but also only take up very little amounts of time. Listicles are very common. They're usually, top 10 bands from Somalia that you haven't heard of, or 5 types of toothpaste that exploded on the plane, or whatever. Stuff like that. Huffington Post, cracked.com, they do stuff like this. It's a little trashy, but who cares? It's like it's kind of fun to read, and you'll be done in a minute or two. There's also stuff that you can just pick up and read, put down, not read for 5 months, and pick up and read again, and do it in small chunks. The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole was a series from the 80s that is a teenager's diary. So you can just read a day and then just put it down. And there's something called the Book of General Ignorance, which is great fun. It's full of facts that you thought you knew, but you didn't. Like, the tallest mountain in the world is not Everest. Well, what is the tallest mountain in the world? You may be asking. I'm not going to tell you. You should read the Book of General Ignorance, and you can find out. Notice, though, here's a clue. Notice I said tallest, not highest. Okay, finally, self-study menu item number 5. This is intensive reading. So we talked about extensive reading. It's very important for you to find something fun, but also reading can be a more studious and intense and kind of investigative process too, where you pick up lots of words and phrases. And with intensive reading, here's my suggestion. Don't read and just find every word you don't know and then check the dictionary for that word and then write it in your book, and now you've got that word in your book. It's just in your book, it's not in your head. What is more effective for remembering language, making language stay, making language stick, is thinking in phrases and chunks, because that's how we kind of process language. It's not word by word, it's like phrase by phrase. So here's my advice. When you're reading, go through it quite sort of like a scientist. So you've got a page or a paragraph or whatever, a small piece. Again, focus on small pieces and get the most out of them. That's the difference between intensive and extensive reading. So find a paragraph or even a page if you're feeling confident. Go through it, find all the phrasal verbs, and try to figure out what the phrasal verbs mean. You can do the same thing again, but this time look for collocations. Collocations are words that often go together, like make a speech, or sleep tight, or ridiculously expensive. Things that you feel work together, not individually. Do it again. This time read for idioms. We all know what idioms are. And the go-to example of an idiom is "it's raining cats and dogs." My advice, don't use that. No one really uses that phrase anymore. It's just so old-fashioned. But you know what an idiom is. Look for it in your paragraph. Look for it in your page. Finally, just read it for phrases, because English is so, and I think most languages, it functions on a more phrasal level. Look for, it was just, what's an example of a good sort of phrase or a chunk? It was mindless escapism, or that sort of thing could really have been avoided, or wow, that's putting it mildly. There are phrases everywhere and things that just sort of function together a lot. So instead of just going through and just writing down every word you don't know, that will drive you mad. Read the same thing again and again and again, but do it for different things each time. And then you'll get a better feeling, not just for these individual phrases and chunks, but you'll get a better feeling for how the whole dynamic of the language, how the idioms relate to the phrasal verbs, relate to the collocations, relate to the chunks. That's intensive reading. Don't try and finish the book. Don't try and finish the chapter. That is for extensive reading. Intensive reading is when you just go hardcore and just go deep, 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 deep. Okay, and that's the self-study menu. So quick recap. Subtitle Sandwich. The Shadow Reading. A Page of Tintin. extensive reading, intensive reading. So yeah, you can, if you didn't like any of these, by the way, just don't put them on your list, don't put them on your menu. But if you liked any of them, write them down now, and you have started your self-study menu. Next step is to add things. So if you've already got things you like doing that we haven't talked about today, add them to your menu now. Watch your menu start to take shape, and every time you come round to studying, you can decide how much time you have and how motivated you're feeling. If you're not feeling very motivated, do one of the easy and fun things. If you're feeling more rigorous and investigative or whatever, you can try one of the more intense activities. You don't know how you're going to feel on Wednesday, so don't decide now what you're going to do on Wednesday. Don't give your future you a bad time. Give your future you a choice. And then future you can decide, because future you knows better than now you. I think that's a fact we can all agree with, and a fact we're going to end on. So yeah, that's it. The self-study menu. Start yours today. Thanks a lot for listening. It was a quick one today, but maybe we like quick ones. If you have any comments, or actually, if you have any other things to add to the self-study menu that you like, that you enjoy doing, send me an email, gabriel@clarkandmiller.com. And and if we get enough of those, I might do another episode on the self-study menu, more things we can put on that you do yourself. So, but meanwhile, stay safe. Thanks for listening, and I am looking forward to talking at you next time. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.